It's time to make a super slick Clicky Fidget using the brand new Sketch Tool upgrade, so let's get cracking. We're going to start with a template, friends. It is bit.ly/HLFidget1. Friends, this is my earlier Clicky Fidget tutorial. I'll have a link up here in the corner. We're going here to get the magic cutouts. Now the project is set to copy and tinker, so don't forget the golden rule of Tinkercad. Give a reaction before you copy and tinker. Now, when you use Copy and Tinker, you get an exact copy of the project. This is a working Gingy Fidget. As you can see, I explained it was an imported SVG. We have now got a niftier technique for making this. I'm going to just grab these and delete them right now. Notice that part was locked. So I'm going to unlock it and hit delete. Of course, if you do want to print that one, you can, of course, return to the bit.ly and re-copy and tinker. Now, the two parts we need are the magic hole and the cap cutter. These are the two parts that you can use for all your fidgets. Of course, you can always go back to the template, but I want to show you this as well. You can also click your creations and you can save these. So when I click on the shape and I click create shape, it pops up this window. You do need to wait for it to load. I'm going to call it keyhole. Of course, it needs to be a hole, and I want the part size locked, and I'm going to save the shape. After a moment, it appears right here, and whenever you visit your creations from any project, it'll be available. Of course, I want to save the cap cutter as well, so I click it, hit create shape, wait for it to load. I'm going to call it cap cutter, and I'm going to lock the part size and save the shape. I have saved these earlier, so I'm just going to click the gear and choose delete and confirm. This project started with an image that was shared with me. It was a simple flower, had a couple leaves, and the user wanted to make it into a fidget. This design was screen captured, saved as a PNG, and I'm simply going to bounce to the website, picsvg.com, and we're going to upload that image. This is where I downloaded it to. After a moment, it comes in. With our new technique, I am just going to trace this, so I'm going to accept Edge 2 and download the SVG. I'm going to put it in my downloads. I'm going to call it Flower CL for Flower Clicker, and now we can return to Tinkercad and bring that in for tracing. Import, choose a file. Of course, in the downloads, there's my Flower CL. I always want to pick the art and then pick a size that's good for a fidget clicker. I'm going to choose 70 and press enter. Notice it scales the other side automatically. I made the width the 70 because of how the leaves are poking out to the right. After a moment, our design shows up. I'm going to make it really thin. And in the old system, we built our fidget with this. But friends, I'm going to show you how it's even slicker with the sketch tool. I'm going to go back to our basic shapes, and we're going to bring out the sketch tool. We can simply set it down on the work plane. We're going to shut off the grid, so once you do set it down, simply double click to start editing. Alright, so let me show you how to trace this. We can do straight lines, or we can do these sweet Bezier curves. Because our shape is a curve, we are going to curve it. I also want to highlight we've got to go around these leaves to make the outside of our fidget. So I'm going to hit the number 2, and I'm going to shut the grid off, because otherwise we can't get to the exact corners. And then we just click, and once again we hit Bezier. So now if I click and hold, I can make that curve. Now the technique is to have 2 of these for each corner. Click, hold, bingo, there's petal 1. Trust me, we're going to make these pop to the outside in a minute. This one doesn't turn correctly. What you can do is press the number 1, put a little straight point, then switch number 2, and bend it as well. I don't really know if that's faster, and usually these are much smoother if you just go all the way around. Now here's where it gets a little funky. We want to dip here and come up this way. Now I'm still in number 2 mode, but if I just click straight, notice it makes a straight line. I'm going to come up here to the middle of the curve, bend, bring it down, and then keep following this through our shape. Once again, click, bend, and we'll fix these in a second. Don't let those bug you. I'm even going to do this one backwards, and then finally click and twist. So with it finished, I can now double click. I'm going to go to this point right here, and I'm going to set to number 3. So it's got these broken handles. Same thing right here. Click, and the solid line means it's number 2 or smooth. If I press number 3, it is now broken, and I can take this one and bend it up where I want. Because I broke this a moment ago, I can move it as well. I'll just show you real quickly the synchronized ones. These move as a pair. If you ever don't like what you did, you can just do Control Z. Once again, I need to fix this, so we're just going to grab the point and move it back to where I should have put it. It's real slick working with these. I'm also going to put this point in the middle of these two. So we don't have to follow it precisely because we're making our new outline on our own. Let's see if I can do this with a smooth point. I like that, but I think I'd still rather hit number 3 so that way I can stretch this one out a little further to get it exactly the way I want. Friends, that's your shape, and then here's what's so cool. Now I can click on this and I can switch to give it a width. Here is our 2mm width, but it's on the inside. If we take this to the outside, bang, we have just made the outside of our shape. If we hit finish sketch, that, my friends, is the outline that we'll use for everything else we create. All right, so now that you've seen how cool that is, let me show you how this is going to work. We're going to click on this and do Control D. We are going to double click on it, and we want to take that and we want to change it from that outside to not even having it. We want to create the silhouette that's going to make our Clicky Fidget. When we hit finish, you can see we now have these two parts. We need to take our base, and I'm going to switch the color just so it's easier to see what is what, and set it to a height of 13 and press enter. We want to align these two, and we're going to do that with Shift Select, L for Align, click on that pink part, and choose Center and Center. And we also want to move it to the top. Now you do want to make sure it comes all the way to the top. I'm going to set my settings to 0.1, and I'm going to do Control Up to move it one click further. Now because of the way Tinkercad aligns stuff, this feels like it should be a little bit to the left to me. So I'm going to do Shift Nudge so it goes a whole millimeter to the left. If you felt more, there's 2 shift nudges. We had to do Shift Nudge because we had this set to 0.1. I'm happy with that placement, and I need to save that placement for this part. So we're going to Shift Select these two. Notice it says 2 shapes. Do Control D and Shift Nudge way out there out of the way. And this is what we're going to use for our top. Now we only need this to be 4mm high for the top, and then we need to make sure we align this part with this part. So Shift Select, L for Align. We're going to click on that shape and just do Center and Center. And now that that's in place, we can delete it. If we look underneath, there is our hole that's going to be cut in, and it's lined up exactly with these 2 parts. We can now Shift Select this and do Control G to group. And you can see how our fidget clicker is going to go inside. We can also double click on this shape, and we can change the walls to the walls we need. I'm going to tell you that the number that you want to type is 1.4, and this is because I've done some math on wall thickness. So now we can hit finish sketch, and then we can click on the wall height and pick the correct number, which is 17, and press enter. Now these notes are starting to get in the way of the project. They were for the other project. So I'm also going to click right here and do hide notes so they're no longer in our way. It's time to take this piece right here and bring it over to our other project. Once again, Shift Select, L for Align. This one's got to be the boss, and we're going to choose Center and Center. I'm also going to quickly adjust these to fit my printer's colors. So I'm going to make my flower with a yellow. I'm going to pick this one. I'm going to make this one yellow as well because it'll be the part that's sitting in. And then we need to make the outline. To do the outline, we're going to do Control D. I'm going to press W for work plane, and I'm going to drop that on top. And I'm going to set it to a pink. I've got a sweet bubblegum pink, and that's what I'm going to use for that shape. Of course, now we can edit it by going inside, and I'm going to click on it, and I want to click on the wall choice, turn on the width. We need to make this on the inside of the shape, and I'm going to choose 1.4 for the size. And I'm going to just leave the corners and hit finish sketch. I'm going to choose to make that 0.5 millimeters high. I'm going to start by printing this with the colors on top. I will highlight how to print it face down when I'm done. I'm going to put the work plane back down on the ground. And let's quickly draw the missing piece of the flower. All right, so let's do some editing quick. We're gonna double click on that pink one so we can get in it. The first thing I wanna do is make it follow this edge better. If we click on this, change the stroke settings, switch from a sharp corner to a round corner, that's all of a sudden much better. I'm gonna simply have this one come in underneath it nice and close. So if we double click to finish that one, P for pen, I'm gonna start right here on the end of this, press number 2 so it's a Bezier curve, and I'm just gonna bend this up and around and up and around. I'm gonna adjust that in a second, make this bend, and then I wanna curve this one back here. Notice it did not turn the way I wanted, so I'm gonna just hit escape and finish it. Then I can double click to edit, and I'm gonna just take this handle and I'm gonna move it up here. Notice these are smooth handles. If I can get those to work, I will. If not, like right here, I'm gonna press number 3 so they're the broken handles, and each one can be adjusted independently. I like that. Remember, if the dimensions are ever in the way, you can now click up here and hide them. How cool is that? Zoom in and adjust my points so they look the way I want. I'm gonna come over to this one right here, and I'm gonna move it to the edge so that those go like that. I can double click that one, and once again, we're gonna do P for pen to draw these. These are so slick, you just draw them back. And then of course, we need to go to the stroke settings and round them off. Bang. Someday, hopefully we'll be able to copy and paste these. Right now, we need to hit P for pen and do those steps a second time to get them. Escape and round the end. Now the same thing we did here, we're gonna do for this one, but check this out. This circle is about 2 centimeters, so we're gonna come over here, P for pen. I'm gonna turn that grid back on, so that way it's easier to mark, and we're just gonna make a 2 centimeter circle by making a diamond. Snap, snap, snap. Double click to edit, double click again, and it auto smooths. Now we can drag this over into position. I'm gonna shut that nudge back off for the next step. That lets me micro nudge this into place. See how that goes 1/100th? And then are you ready for this? We can double click, hit the stroke settings, enable the stroke. It's already set to 2 millimeters and we wanna push it to the outside. How cool is that? Then we can go back to the P for pen, draw the line, hit escape, and change the stroke settings all the way around the rest of the shape. And then the final step is to draw the eyes and the mouth. Once again, P for pen, click and press number 2 so that it's a curve. I'm gonna go halfway around and bend it, and bend it. And finally click, hold, and bend to finish the eye. P for pen, repeat the process. This one will be sharp, and then finally click and hold. Bang, details added. Now that we've got all these details, we can move this out of the way, or you could delete it. It's up to you. We're gonna make these right here green because they are leaves, and we're gonna do it with this same sketch. Do Control D, so there's 2 of them, double click to edit, and then we're gonna delete everything in there. We liked this because it was sitting in the right location. Now we can simply click, press the number 2, and we wanna come close to being inside our former shape. Just click and hold. Note you can edit them when you're done. Click, click. I'm gonna click and hold up here, and I'm just trying to be outside a little bit so that way there's no empty spots when we're done with this. Once again, click, hold, and twist. Click, and then bring it home underneath and finish it. I'm gonna double click to edit this up here, and I just wanna smooth those out a tiny bit, just making sure there's no gaps. I'm even gonna take this one, I'm gonna press number 1 to make it a line, and drag that point down. Doesn't change anything, just because I wanted to show you how. When I hit finish sketch, we're gonna now set that to green. And then to make these so they don't overlap, I'm gonna take this one, and I'm gonna make it 0.8, and I'm gonna set this one at 0.4. Which just makes it show up a little bit better. Friends, right there are your Clicky Fidget parts. Notice we have not cut in the hole on this one. I'm going to hide this real quickly. I'm going to hide this real quick. And then watch this. If you hit T for transparent, this part is upside down. I'm going to click underneath, make sure I get a hold of that part. With it selected, I'm going to click over here and I'm going to flip it with the mirror tool. So now the trapezoid base is down and it's pointing up. A lot of times I print these parts face down. Today we're going face up. T to shut off transparent, and now we can grab those two parts, double check that it says 2, and do Control G to group. If you want proof, you can hit T to see that it's in there. Of course, afterwards, bring back your other parts. So we've got all the decorating done. The final thing is to get the fit right. We're going to adjust these walls so there's more room. We're going to simply double click to edit. And where I had told you 1.4, we're going to now make this 1.8 and press enter. When we hit finish sketch, we're going to put the work plane right up here and we're going to select this shape and do Control D and D to drop. Turn that into a hole. We're going to double click on it, and in the stroke settings, notice we just click and switch to stroke. We're going to move it to the center, and we're going to change this to 0.8 and press enter. If you zoom in, you can now see that it's going to trim, and it's going to adjust that. I'm actually going to make it 1 whole millimeter and press enter. So there will be a 0.5 millimeter gap all the way around our shape. If we hit finish sketch, we can now put the work plane back on the ground, and if we grab all those parts and do Control G, after a moment, the shape groups, and bingo, our part is ready to send to the 3D printer. I'm going to start by selecting the yellow parts, Shift Select to get the 2 of them, and choose Export. I choose STL. You can use OBJ, but I prefer having the parts separate and bringing them in all at once. I do not like the unzipping process. I'm going to put Flower Fidget, and I'm going to call this the base, and save. Then we can click on the pink. Once again, export, STL, only the selected shape. I'm going to name it pink. And finally the green, export, STL, selected shape, and label it green. Now we can bounce to Bambu Studio, and we can simply add those 3 parts. I grab them all at once, choose open, and yes, I want them to be a single object, multiple parts. Bounce to the objects menu. Notice the fidget base has an error. I'm just going to right click on it and say fix model. It only takes a moment. As you can see, everything is good to go. Now I can click on the flower green and I can make it green. I can click on the flower pink and make it pink, and the flower base, and I'm going to keep it yellow. That's the project, but let's make this even a little bit cooler. I'm going to click on the pink and I'm going to switch to paint mode. Now I can zoom in, grab my 4th color blue, and let's paint these just like this. I do want those edges. And once we're done, I'm going to close this so it's easier to see. And here's something fun for you. Slice plate, we got an error. I was stuck on this for a whole day. Friends, watch this. If we just go back to prepare and drag this back a few millimeters, all of a sudden, bingo, slice plate, and everything's fine. And we'll have a fantastic fidget in about an hour. Of course, then you can hit print plate, and of course, double check our colors, and send it to the 3D printer. And about an hour later, we have got a print. This is a Cali Clicky Fidget switch. Snapped in. Here is our cover. How cool is that? So there you have it, steps to use the brand new sketch tool to trace an SVG and turn it into something awesome like a Clicky Fidget. Now there's tons more to explore. If you are interested in printing it flush, make sure you add that in the comments. I'll make an extra video showing those steps at a later date. I would like to take a moment to give a shout out to everybody supporting me via YouTube memberships. There are 3 different levels of support starting as low as $5 a month, and with any support you get early access to videos I do want to send a quick shout out to my Patreon members as well. Love how that group is growing. It has a fantastic community feature. You can leave messages, get help, and it's a great place to learn about Tinkercad. Of course, you can learn more with the bit.ly up above or the link in the description. Finally, friends, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget, every time you hit that like button, share a video, add a comment down below, or click subscribe. You're helping HLModTech get just a little bit bigger, which absolutely makes my day. Friends, have a glorious day and keep tinkering.